Ramdas, and he is
also Ramdas.
Franco. And we are going to entertain you.
Hi. Aloha. Very nice to be with you. It's fun to be with all of you and to be with my old friend Ramdas, to have a chance to have a bit of a dialogue together. So Ramdas and I have known each other for a good many years now, and we also teach together on the faculty of an organization called the Metta Institute in California, which teaches healthcare professionals how to provide mindful and compassionate care of the dying. So we do that work together as well as being here. And we thought today we would try and explore together, have an adventure together around three areas. And the first of those is love and loving kindness. His favorite. That's his favorite. And then we thought we'd look and see, well, what place does love have in being with dying? You know? And then if there was time, we thought we might also look and see what's the place of compassionate action in our lives. So this is generally where we'd like to go today. And I thought I'd begin by saying a few words about each of those, and then we'll have a bit of a dialogue. So in part today, we want to look at the role that love plays, not only in the process of dying, but of course in the process of living. When Ramdas and I created the Metta Institute, we were thinking about what's the one quality that's most needed by the person who's dying, and also by his or her caregivers. And the one quality, of course, is love. And so we named the organization Metta. Metta is the old Pali word that generally is translated as loving kindness. So one way that love shows up for the person who's dying is as a kind of reflection. I've been now with hundreds and hundreds of people who've died, and inevitably, two questions arise in their time of dying. And they are basically, am I loved? And did I love well? Yeah? Everything else is kind of extra. Those are the two most important questions. And for the caregivers, the same questions actually arise. But another question comes for caregivers, and that is really, do you have the room in your heart to fall in love with someone that you'll be taking care of, knowing that one day they will die and your heart will break? Another aspect of love that we want to try and explore today is how it creates a kind of holding environment that creates a sense of trust that enables us to meet the impossible. And when this trust is in place, how we can come to rest, really rest, body at rest, heart at rest, mind at rest, consciousness at rest. And another aspect of this love which plays out in the time of dying is its quality of receptivity. That love doesn't exclude anything. So everything is welcome. All of the beauty and all of the horror. Yeah? All of the ease and all of the difficulty. All of it is embraced in love. And finally, another piece of love that we want to explore, it's the way that love calls us home in the time of dying. How love calls us home. Yeah? And then when we talk about being with dying, the second aspect of our day today, I want to sort of put a stake in the ground at the beginning here and say that I think we share this view that dying is a sacred act. It is a time and a place of growth and transformation. It's much more than a medical event, and we have to stop treating it as if that's all it was. Now, the sacred is not always about seeing new things. It's not always about ecstatic visions. The sacred is about seeing things in a new way. Like, I started a program called the Zen Hospice 25 years ago. And one of the places where we took care of folks was a long-term care facility, the largest long-term care facility in the country, actually, 1,100 beds. And it was an old-style hospital where there was bed after bed after bed, 40 beds in one room. There's nothing like it this side of Calcutta, you know. And I was walking down this gauntlet of beds one day, and there was this older African-American man. And he just caught my attention, and it was clear that he was breathing with a lot of difficulty. And so I went over and I sat down beside him. And he was sweating and breathing really hard, you know. And so I tend to be very honest with the people I work with. So I said, you look like you're working really hard, you know. And he said, yeah, just got to get there. And he pointed like that. And I said, oh. I said, if I promise to keep up, can I come? And he said, yeah. And he grabbed my hand. Yeah? And I said to him, I didn't bring my glasses today. I can't see there into the distance. Can you tell me what you see in the distance? And he described a sloping hillside to a kind of plateau. I said, you want to go? Yeah. So we walked up this hill. And it was hard work. He was huffing and puffing, yeah? Sweating. And when it was clear that we'd gotten to the top of the hillside, I said, can you see further there into the distance? I can't see. And he said, yeah, and he described for me a little one-room red schoolhouse. This was a man who'd been raised in Mississippi. I said, you want to go? Yeah. Now, I could have said to him at this point, you're disoriented times 3. This is the result of the brain metastasis and the morphine that you have on board. And you're at Laguna Honda Hospital, and let me orient you to time and space. But actually, none of that was true. What was true is we were going to a little red schoolhouse. I said, there's the steps. There's the door. You want to go in? Yeah. I said, can I go? I always ask permission. He said, no. I said, okay, then you go. And a few minutes later, he died very peacefully. Yeah? Yeah. To see the sacred is not about seeing new things. It's about seeing things in a new way. Yeah? The sacred's not separate or different than everything else. It's part of everything else. It's hidden in the ordinariness of our lives. And the time of dying is a time of stripping away. It's a time of uncovering, to reveal, actually, a truth that was always there, that we couldn't see. Yeah? So, love helps us to do that. even if we're not the one that's dying, we may think it's a long way in our future, Still, there's a great value in reflecting on our death. Because when we come into contact with actually how precarious this life actually is, it's completely precarious, right? We don't know what's going to happen. Well, when we touch that, really let ourselves touch that, we also touch just how precious it is. And then we don't want to waste a moment of our life. Then we want to jump into our life with both feet. We want to live it fully. When there's people we love, we tell them we love them. My experience of being with dying and reflecting on dying is that it's strangely life-affirming. And one of the ways that it's life-affirming is that it cultivates a certain generosity in us. It cultivates, it helps us to become kinder to one another, knowing this is our common ground. When we keep death really close at hand, right at our fingertips, and we know how precarious things are, we don't hold on so tightly. We don't take ourselves so seriously. And we don't cling so ferociously to our beliefs. So it engenders in us a certain letting go, releasing, a willingness to give over. Yeah? And if you're a caregiver of someone that's dying, and all of us will be at some point, we don't know when it's going to happen, Maybe you do it as part of your professional role, or maybe you're a volunteer, or maybe you do it when you see your parents stumble over their words or over a curb. But there'll be a time when all of us are called to come and do this, and it's challenging work. It asks you to push past unbelievable fatigue and to face unimaginable doubt, and restlessness will rule often. And your own deep clingings and aversions, they'll come up to the surface to be seen. And helplessness and insecurity, they'll be your common companions. And mostly you'll be asked to face your own fragility, your own dying. And it'll break your heart wide open, But maybe it's here in this broken open heart that we see what really serves. For me, there's a realization that I'm always entering new territory. I have no idea how it's going to turn out, how this dying is going to go. And so it asks of me a certain courage, a willingness to take risks, to make lots of mistakes, and to forgive constantly. The third thing we wanted to look at today, if there's time, is compassionate action. For me, I started the Zen Hospice Project, which began with working with people on the streets of San Francisco. I changed diapers on park benches behind City Hall, and I taught prostitutes how to take care of people with AIDS, and we set up an amazing caring facility in a brothel. So the people I worked with, they didn't trust easily, and so I had to be really sincere. I couldn't fool them. And so for me, caring for the dying, it's a fusion of spiritual insight and practical social action. Yeah. And compassion obviously plays a huge role in this. This is a word that's kind of overused. We've turned it into a Hallmark card, compassion. But what it really is that intelligent, natural response of our being to the presence of suffering. So it's intricately woven with suffering. No contact with suffering, not very much compassion. So compassion comes forward and expresses the gentleness, the kindness, the heartfulness that allows us to trust. Without the presence of compassion, we can't open to our suffering. Yeah? It's not possible. Now, a common misunderstanding of compassion is that we should make people feel safe. And this is good if you can do it. But in my experience, most of the people who were dying didn't feel safe. They were scared. And I couldn't just tell them it's perfectly safe, you know. To them it felt dangerous. But what I found was that when I was really abiding in compassion, when I was really resting in it, then they could sense that. And they were willing to go forward, go toward something that seemed absolutely dangerous for them. But they went toward it because they knew they were accompanied by compassion. So compassion expresses itself as a kind of attunement or an intimacy, we could say, with suffering. And compassion, we normally think of compassion as relieving suffering or getting rid of suffering, yeah? But actually, for me, what it's really about is it gives us the capacity to stay with suffering, to stay with what we would otherwise like to run away from, yeah? The things that frighten us, that scare us. And so compassion allows us to stay with this experience. And by staying with it, what happens is all the defenses that we have against the suffering, to keep the suffering at arm's length, those defenses fall down. And when those defenses fall down, we can see clearly what the actual cause of the suffering is, and then we can do something about that. Yeah? So we want to talk about this today, but also point to another deeper, still deeper dimension of compassion, which is that relieving suffering is an aspect of compassion, but it has a deeper value, and that is that it helps us to reveal the truth, to see the truth of our lives, the truth of who we actually are. Yeah? So these are the three things we thought we'd play with today and see what we could understand together and explore with you. We'll have some dialogue, and then we'll invite you into that dialogue. We'll take some time for some meditation practice. My hope, actually, is that what we'll discover together is a new vantage point. Not just more information, but a new place from which we can all see. And this is really the sign of transformation. It's not just change, it's a new way of seeing, yeah? And that's our deepest hope for the day, yeah? So I want to really just, as I close here, just thank you for coming. I'm so delighted to be with you, and it gives me hope that you're here. You know, the whole world is running in the other direction, running away from these issues. And for one reason or another, you came here today, on this beautiful day, to turn toward that which everybody else is trying to run away from. And I want to express my admiration to you for doing that, and express my gratitude for you doing that. So I'll be quiet now for the next hour and a half, and Ram Dass will talk.
This is the ego. This is who we think we are. This, in the heart, is the spiritual heart. It is who we really are. Now to go from here to here is what we often call sadhana. From here to here. I'm a bhakti yogi, meaning I'm lead with my heart, and so this spiritual heart we could call loving awareness. Loving awareness. So I'll start up here and yet say to yourself, I am loving awareness. 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 Now, if you meet somebody in the street, probably you won't say, I'm loving awareness, because you probably say your name. So this loving awareness is a secret name. Secret name. I am loving awareness. I am loving awareness. I am loving awareness. Now, this spiritual heart, which is how the middle of our chest. It's the entrance across to another plane of consciousness. You go through this and you come to another plane of consciousness. And you come to your soul. Your soul. You can't operate and find the soul because it's a different plane of consciousness. And that soul is who you are. Is who you are. Is who I am. You are a soul traveling across incarnations. And you've taken this incarnation. The ego is fearful, fear. And the soul is love. This soul is an individual soul. It's your soul. And because it has boundaries, your soul. And then there's everything else. And then you graduate from the individual soul to the one. When you're in the individual soul, you see things only as other. When you get to the next step, the third plane of existence, you become the one. You become God. Like, for example, there's my guru in that picture. And when I first met him, he looked at me with unconditional love. Unconditional love. Unconditional love. He cared for me. He didn't care what I've done. or what I'll do. He was unconditionally loving. That was new for me, because I had been, all my life I had been subject to conditional love. We'll love you if you're a good boy. He'll love you for a good student. A good friend. When he looked at me that way, I said to myself, I'm home. I'm home. I'm home. And home in my heart. Now, I am an individual soul. An individual soul. So I look at love, everything, I love everything. I see love, but he bees love. Because he's number 3. He's merged with the one. Maybe I'll get there in this lifetime or in a future lifetime. So, when in my individual soul, I see love, but I don't be love. I can mimic love. I can show people how loving I am. But that's fierce. That's fierce. But here, he wants me to be unconditionally loving. And when he came up to me and he said, Ramdas, love everybody. And I said from my ego, I can't love everybody. And then he nose to nose, Ramdas, love everybody. Here is the judge, I'll say that person's lovable, but that person isn't the judge. But then when we this heart thing. There's no judge. You love everything. You love everything. I was speaking in a restaurant, and I was telling us how much I loved them. And I loved the walls, and I loved the rug. The rug was somewhat spotted. And a friend of mine came up from the audience, and he said, "You know, you used to love me. You said you love me, and that's certainly a good thing. But this rug." But this rug. He sent me for my 80th birthday a picture of a rug with a spot and sent it from New York. He said, maybe you can put this picture in place of your guru. Now I'm identified with my soul. I love everything. Wow. I love the walls. I love all of you. I love my wheelchair. I love everything. I even love my negative thoughts. Yeah. So I'm telling you, this bhakti yoga from here, this is who you think you are, and this one is who you really are. But this down to here is sadhana. It's spiritual journey, and it's the ceremony of death. The dying person looks back, save me, save me, save me. And then as they get on, they get to the red schoolhouse. They get to the By the time you have gone through the ceremony of dying, you are a soul. You are not an ego. Now, as souls, we have gone through incarnations and stopped off at Soul Land along the way. They've got a soul has been through deaths and births and deaths and births. They know that birth is one. The soul does not fear death. Because so many deaths so far. The ego, however, is part of the incarnation. And fearful of the ending of the incarnation and ending of the ego. And there's fear about death. If you are sitting with a dying person, if you have an ego with your roles, I'm a nurse, I'm a doctor, I'm a member of the family, I'm a volunteer. Those are roles. Most people, you all have a role in your life. Your role is a yogi or a member of the society or a hippie or a father, a mother. An adolescent. An old man. That isn't bad, by the way. You know, you know, in India, they treat old men or women, they treat them with respect. And I was coming to India at one time, and I saw one of my old Indian friends. And he said, "Ram Dass, you are looking so old." And I got all fighting. God, I've gone to the gym. And then I realized he was complimenting me. He was complimenting me. But in our youth-oriented society, old people are disposable. Old people have a perspective about their lives, about the culture. A perspective that involves all the experiences they've had. You know, I wrote a book called Still Here. I looked at aging and death. And I was 63, right? And I wrote it, and I just talked about much joy there is. But now that I'm where I am, joy, there's joy, and then there's, and then there's, and then there's. Your pains are stepping stones towards the one. Boy, the pain, wow, is that pain. Wow. Oh. I'm not going to get involved in that pain. Why not? Why not? I'm going to take each thing it comes. Pain, or pleasure, pain or pleasure. The way I live my life is in the present. Somebody said once, what did they say? Be here now.
You know, Ram Dass, I was thinking about what you were saying about this movement from the ego to the heart, spiritual heart, and what you're saying now about aging. And one of the things that help us to surrender can be faith, trust, but another thing that helps us is contact with our vulnerability. Contact with our vulnerability. So that when we touch this kind of vulnerability, we look for a true refuge. Yeah. You know, at the Zen center where I practice, and in most Zen centers, there's a han. You know the han, as you walk in the zendo. It's a wooden block, oak block, and you hit with a mallet to call the students into meditation. And it's written across this, in Sumi ink it says, beware the great matter of life and death. Life passes swiftly. Wake up, wake up. Do not squander this life. That's what it says. Yeah? And every day students and teachers pass this block. And every day the wooden mallet hits the block. And what happens over time is that the words disappear. And the block itself becomes the teaching. Until the block itself becomes fragile and falls apart. Yeah? I think we're like that. You know, we try and defend ourselves against the blows of life and keep them at arm's length. And then there's a way in which we start to open, actually, to the difficulties of our life.
Yeah.
And this brings forward something else, you know. This becomes a doorway to love, I think. Yeah.
It's a doorway to faith.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
You use the word surrender.
Mm.
My sadhana is talking to my guru.
Mm.
Now, most of you have a guru inside. And I had one in India. And a fellow came up to me and said, you're talking to your dead guru. Yes, I said, I do. I talk to my dead guru. He says, well, that's your imagination. And I said, probably. Because my guru is in my imagination. Ha ha ha. So it's like, it's a friend. As a friend, has wisdom, has compassion, has joy, has peace, has love. Mm. And I like that as a friend, which I sit, my guru is here.
Shall we make some time for them to ask some questions or comments? What do you think?
Sure.
Yeah? I mean, they might have something really interesting to say.
All right, go ahead.
Oh. Because we wanted to have a little bit of time for dialogue with you. And so maybe you have a comment or a question that you want to share. Don't be afraid, you know. At Harvard, they did a study about people's great fears, and fear of dying came in way behind fear of speaking in public. So it's good to practice dying.
When you spoke about compassion and suffering and how you can't really get away from the suffering when you have so much compassion, is there a way to alleviate the suffering and still have compassion?
I'll say something to start. I think compassion arises out of contact with suffering. So we have to know what suffering is. It doesn't mean that we have to continue to suffer in order to feel compassionate. None of us are strangers to suffering. But it doesn't mean we have to be two suffering people down a well, you know? That doesn't help anybody, yeah? So I think contact with our own suffering allows us to build an empathetic bridge to the other person, and then from that, compassion emerges. Yeah. But I don't know. What do you think?
I think social action is trying to relieve suffering.
Mm-hmm.
And there are many people who do social action, but they don't feel compassionate to themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Or compassionate to the people of this. Compassion is like love. It's the one. Compassion is you feel that the other person is you. And I don't think many social action people have that.
You know, in my tradition, as you know well, we have the notion of the bodhisattva, the being who has the capacity to be completely free of all suffering, but steps back into it until all beings are free. So I think of compassion like this. Bernie actually uses this image. He says, when your left hand gets cut, your right hand immediately reaches out and touches it.
Yeah.
It doesn't think of it as anything special.
Yeah.
It's just the natural the most natural response of our being. Yeah, yeah. Other comments or questions? Things that you want to? Oh, sorry. Yes, please.
Hi.
Hi.
I've heard that in being a caregiver that empathy is kind of on a higher vibration than sympathy. And it made me think of that when you're talking about compassion. And I'm wondering what your thoughts are on how compassion and empathy kind of are related. And yeah.
Well, empathy is that capacity that allows us to feel with another. We know something about their suffering because we are familiar with our own, and we build a bridge from that experience to the other person's. But what I see happen a great deal in caregiving is that people get caught in this. They get caught in this feeling with the other, and they get overloaded, actually. And they become kind of reverberating chambers for suffering. So compassion, as you've suggested, takes us to another level. And compassion is really feeling for the other. Yeah? And we feel for the other, not that they're separate from us. As Ram Dass has suggested, we're functioning from unity, really. But we're not as entangled in their suffering, and because of that, we can be of some real help. I mean, the ultimate suffering that everybody's facing is their sense of separation. And if we don't recognize that as part of all suffering, then our efforts will fall short, actually. Our efforts to help will fall short. So I think that's a distinction, one way we could make a distinction.
But he mentioned empathy and
sympathy.
Sympathy, which is low.
Yeah, sympathy is very close to pity, isn't it?
Yeah, pity.
They're the poor unfortunate ones, and we're the good guys on the white horses.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, compassion is as Ram Dass has suggested, it's a facet of love. It's just the facet of love that shows up in relationship to suffering. It's a kindness. Now, there's other facets of love that we were talking about at the beginning that are just pure delight. And they're just happiness. And we just love, And it isn't about kindness. It's just about delight and pure melting love. And that kind of love has this other way of supporting us. And one of the ways it supports us is by melting the boundaries that we've been so tightly clinging to. Yeah? So that's another way that love shows up. This gentleman here, Mike. Oh, actually one more. Oh, sorry, Mike's over there. Then Mike will come here. Thank you for your patience. Namaste.
I just wanted to, 35 years ago you introduced me to meditation when you first had your book, Be Here Now. And now asking about meditation to enlightenment. And I've heard people who have experienced death and gone to that consciousness on the other side, and it sure seems the same as a really good meditation. I wonder if you can comment about that to help the meditation of the spiritual path 35 years later. Namaste.
You meditate a lot.
Oh yeah, you want to do metta?
Huh?
You mean you want to do some metta? No. Oh, I see what you mean. I'm sorry. You must have really good meditations. The truth is, he might know, but I actually don't know what it's like after we die. I don't know.
I do.
You do? See, I knew he would know this. So, well, actually, since you know.
You don't believe me. No. I
think, go ahead.
I don't talk to unbelievers.
See, we have, in my tradition, we have this really wonderful expression. We say, not knowing is most intimate. Not knowing is nearest. When Dogen, the head of the Zen school, was asked about enlightenment, he said, not knowing is nearest. Not knowing is most intimate. Yeah? He said, I can't exactly say what it is, but I can say that not knowing is the closest. Yeah?
I know.
This is why I'm hanging out with you.
Yeah. This fellow.
First, I just want to thank you both for being here now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Both for being here now. Mm-hmm. I think I heard you say something about loving your negative thoughts.
Yeah.
What does one do with one's negative thoughts, and how do you love them?
Well,
And can you love mine also?
you love them to death.
Yeah, there we go. Yes, that's it. Very good. That's good. Love them to death. Very good.
Because otherwise, you get angry at them, and that's bad for your heart. There's Mike.
How much? One or two more we have.
Namaste, Franco, Ram Dass. The last time I saw you was 50 years ago on the peninsula in the incarnation of Richard Alpert. and I wanted to thank you for all these years.
That druggie?
Just love that thought. Just love that thought.
Among other things, yes. I have a question. You had said that you felt that you loved everything, but you weren't love. Would you expand on that distinction a little bit more? And one other question, if I'm understanding it correctly, if you are not love, what's keeping you?
What's keeping me is my separateness. I have a thing about my separateness. You know. See, I have God within me, and you have God within me, and with you. And I have an ego that says you should be, you shouldn't presume to be like him. That's a little bit. See, it's like if you have a guru and he does wonderful things. You don't, he's there, and I'm here. I know it's a fallacy. It's a fallacy. Ha ha ha. It's a fallacy. interestingly enough, Maharaji, I first loved because of his siddhis, his powers. Because I wanted powers. I really wanted powers. And he could do things that, oh boy, yum, yum, yum. And then I kept staying in India and staying in India and staying in India around him. But it wasn't his powers, it was his love. And when I finally realized that, boy, that was a change in my consciousness. That was my consciousness. And then I think that love is the greatest power. That's what I'm working on now.
Let's take one more question. Huh?
Thank you both. And Ram Dass, when you kept saying, I'm loving awareness, I'm loving awareness, I'm loving awareness, I heard finally, I'm loving awareness. And the awareness that came in for me was the mahalo to both of you and to everyone here who has brought consciousness and awareness forward to us being soul and not separation. And how the world has transformed as I look out as a soul and know the common ground that we all have, how the world is transformed as we view everyone as one.
Yes.
I want to put in my 2 cents for the personality, because there's a lot of ideas out there that we have to get rid of it.
No, we don't have to get rid of the soul,
The personality.
The personality. The ego is a servant for the soul,
Right.
and I don't think it's necessary to get rid of it. I think it's make it nice.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you and I were talking about this yesterday, that we can't be free if we reject anything. And that's the beautiful thing about love, is that it doesn't reject anything.
Yeah.
Mike is giving me the message that we have to close soon. Should we close with a loving awareness meditation?
You.
You want to do metta?
You metta.
Okay, all right. So we'll close with a little short metta meditation then, if that's okay. Yeah. Metta, it means, the word actually means gentleness and friendship, actually. It's often translated as loving kindness, but it's gentleness, and so the image is like a gentle rain pouring down. And friendliness is the kind of unconditional love or unconditional friendliness that Ram Dass has been speaking about. So we can find a position in which we can be comfortable but also alert. If you like, you can let your eyes close, but you can also leave them softly open. Oh, and just for a moment, take a moment to reflect just on some of the things that Ram Dass has been saying about the enormous power of unconditional love. The warmth of that, the tenderness of that, the delight and happiness, the contentment that comes. The Buddha said if we were to search the whole planet, we could not find another being more deserving of love than ourselves. And so we always begin the metta practice with ourselves, calling an image of ourselves into our own mind and heart, regarding ourselves with kindness. What we do in the metta practice is we recite phrases again and again. And that recitation cultivates concentration. And so the mind becomes one-pointed and still. And then we make contact with the quality of the phrases that we're evoking, the warmth and love of them. And so we have a concentrated mind meeting an ever-expanding heart. I'll say the classical phrases and then feel free to adapt them in any way that suits you. Generally, the first phrase is, "May I be safe and free from all danger." May I be safe and free from all danger. And say that over and over, evoking the quality of that sense of safety. Not safety from conditions, but safety that comes from resting in our true nature. May I be safe, free from all danger. And then we evoke another quality of love, that of happiness and peacefulness. So the phrase might be, "May I be happy and peaceful. May I be happy and peaceful." You can notice if there's any inhibitions or obscurations that come to block this, any notions of not being deserving. And just meet those with the same tenderness. The third phrase is usually, "May I be well in body and in mind. May I be well in body and in mind. And if I cannot be well in body and mind, may I meet my limitations gracefully. May I be well in body and mind." And the fourth and final phrase, "May I live with ease, free of struggle and procrastination. May I have all the conditions that contribute to ease." So we really want to establish these qualities in ourselves, so much so that they suffuse our whole being. And then they naturally spill out to other beings in all directions. So one more time for yourself, for ourselves. May I be safe, free from all danger. May I be happy and peaceful. May I be well in body and mind. Or sometimes I like to say, may I be filled with loving kindness from head to toe, suffused with love. And may I live with ease, ease of well-being. Now choose someone who it's very easy for you to love, who it's not difficult at all for you to love. Classically, it's your benefactor or teacher, but maybe also your child. Someone who it's so easy for you to love. And calling that person into your mind and heart, extending the same wishes to them. So just as I wish to be safe, may you be safe, free from all danger. Calling them by their name, just as I wish to be happy and peaceful, may you also be happy and peaceful. And just as I would wish to be filled with loving kindness, may you also be filled with loving kindness, head to toe, heart to heart. And just as I would wish to live with ease, may you also live with ease of well-being, without any struggle or procrastination. Live with ease. And now widening the circle just a little bit larger to include everybody in this room and all the families of everyone in this room and all the beings that are seen and unseen in our lives that support us. Extending that circle as wide as it can go. Just as I wish to be safe. May everyone here and all beings be safe. And just as I would wish to be happy and peaceful, may everyone here and all beings in all directions be happy and peaceful. And just as I would wish to be filled with loving kindness, may each being here and beings everywhere be filled with loving kindness. And just as I would wish to live with ease, may each being here and all beings in all directions, may they live with ease, ease of well-being. Anicca vara sankara uparvaya damino upakituva niruchanti tesa vipassano zuko. All things are characterized by change and impermanence. To live in harmony with this truth brings great happiness and contentment. Anicca vara sankara uparvaya damino upakituva niruchanti tesa vipassano zuko. May each of us here find ourselves in each other, body to body, heart to heart, mind to mind, soul to soul, true nature to true nature. Namaste.
Namaste.